It's tonight is a special night, Chavdaled Teves, Yahrtzeit of the Alter Rebbe, and as the Rebbe would refer to him, Baal Hatanya V'Hashulchan Aruch, and there is guidance from the Rebbe, what we should learn on the day of his Yahrtzeit. One of the things is that we should learn something from the Alter Rebbe's Toiras Haniglo, the revealed part of Torah, which is Shulchan Aruch. Since there came a request, we should learn something about the halachos of Neiros Shabbos Kodesh. So we'll start with halacha in Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. Simen Reish Samach Gimel 263. Halacha Ches. And the Amadlik, the one who lights the Shabbos candles, the one who lights the Yom Tov candles, if it's a man, if it's a lady, Chayovim Levorech, have to make a brocha. Baruch Ato Hashem Elokeinu Melech Ha'olam Asher Kiddushonu B'mitzvosov V'tzivonu Lahadlik Neir Shel Shabbos Hoi Shel Yom Tov. Even though it's a mitzvah midarabonon, it's not biblical, but Alter Rebbe says, kederech, the same way, shemevorchim, we make a broche, al kol, al sha'ar, kol ha-mitzvahs. The other mitzvahs, which is medivrei sofim. But the way we make a broche is we always make a broche before we do the mitzvah. That's when we make the bracha. So what's going to be over here? If we make the bracha before we light the candles,
it's already Shabbat.
We're going to say, Neir Shel Shabbos is the Kibul Shabbos. So the lady who's lighting the candles have already accepted Shabbos. We can't light after B'tehei Asur or Lahadlik, shall be forbidden. So what do we do? Ein onenis, the one who lights the candle does not have a benefit of the candle ad achar habroche, till after the blessing. Means she covers herself with her hand immediately as she lit ad achar gemara brocha, and she finishes the brocha. The oz, and then once she finishes the blessing, masira yodo, she removes her hands and she benefits from the light. So since you're lighting candles in order to benefit from the candles, so before you benefit from the candles, you make the blessing. Yom Tov, really, Yom Tov, we should be permitted to make the brocha first and then light the candles, because you are allowed to light a candle from a lit flame, but we don't do it. And Alter Rebbe says, Shaloi lechalei bebrocha achas, not to confuse. Sometimes you make it before, or sometimes you make it after. So we made a straight line. Always the lady should make the brocha after lighting the candles. The Rebbe also guides us that we should learn something from the Alter Rebbe's Toiras Hanister. And the Rebbe suggests it should be from the Sefer Torah Oir, which is Maimorim of every parsha. So in the Parshas Vo'ero, there is a Maimer from the Alter Rebbe. Lochein starts with the words Lochein Emoir. that Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron should say to Paroi, and he explains, a previous mimer, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe v'Aaron leimer, that they should cast his staff for Aaron, it should turn into a snake, and then we learn that Aaron's staff had swallowed the staffs of the Paris people. And this is an introduction to the plagues. Because the idea of the moifsim, of the miracles, of the plagues, Hashem is showing the Egyptians that he is in charge. The Egyptians went so far that they said, Paris said, there is no God. The word that is used in Kabbalah and in Chassidus, something called klippe. What does klippe mean? Klippe means a shell. Klippe means a peel. And Alter Rebbe gives an example from a nut. The way to eat a nut is there's only one way. You have to break the klippe. You can't get the fruit only al yedei shviras haklippe. Since there is sparks of Gedusha in the klippes, so that's the idea of these miracles and the signs that Hashem is showing Paroi, that's breaking the Yeshus, breaking the klippe of Paroi. So he showed him that your snake, that is the klippe of Paroi. So you should know that the snake on its own has no chayus, has no vitality. It gets its chayus from Hashem. Paroi is called by the Novi a great snake. So Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe and Aaron showed Paroi how the snake had a staff, Moshe Rabbeinu's staff, Aaron's staff, is turned into a snake to show him that the chayus of the snake comes from Kedusha. That's the source of their chayus. Then he showed him that the snake turned into a staff and that Aaron's staff swallowed them. That's the beetle of the great snake to godly Kedusha. So it showed Paroi, Asher Einom Yesh V'Dovar B'fnei Atzmai. Paroi and the Egyptians are not independent. Ki'im only bechol rega, every moment. Nimshech lahem ha-ha-chayus, their vitality comes from godliness. You don't see it because Hashem is called Keil Mistater, God which is hiding himself. When Hashem wants, the snake is to a staff and the klippes are like zero. Though is the point of all the miracles, we should know, the Yodu Mitzrayim should know that Ani is Hashem. As the Alter Rebbe is Atanya, and Atanya means so much to our host, printing Atanya in Lakewood, waiting anxiously and should come back from the binder, but we already, the main thing of Atanya is that we should learn in it. We have already been Mekayim learning in the Tanya. Over tonight is Chavdal Tevis, so we'll take another Tanya, but it's all Tanya. And we will learn a little bit from today's Shir Tanya. And it's a good time to remind ourselves that those who don't learn Tanya every day, which is part of Chitas, could do it. And much is to be found of all you could find Chitas online 24 hours a day, so that would make you easier. And in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe brings that we have a godly soul and an animal soul, and each one says their opinion. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Gemara says, helps us. Without HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Yetzer Tov, the good side, would not be able to overpower the evil inclination. And what does it mean, helps him? The Alter Rebbe in Tanya, in today's Shir, Perek Yud Gimel, explain what it means that Hashem helps him. Hashem Hu ha'ore, it's a radiation that Hashem illuminates, Oyer Hashem, to the godly soul. So that gives the godly soul power to have dominion on the folly. The folly is the Yetzer Hara. Shlomo HaMelech calls him a fool. So the power which a Yid gets always, if he wants to be close to Hashem, so Hashem gives him great light, and that helps him. And now, as usual, we will go to the parsha. We just read that the idea of the makis, of the plagues, that it's meant to break the Egyptians, it's meant to teach them of Hashem's existence. So the Rebbe quotes based on Abarbanel that there we see that there was 9 plagues. Makas Bechoros is already clearing them, but there was 3 sets, three. First 3 is teaching Pari and the Egyptians that there is God's existence. We just learned before that Pari could say such things based on, he says, there is no God. As you see, when it comes to the first Makkah, the Egyptians say we could also do it. It comes to the second plague, the Egyptians say we could also do it. By the third plague, they say it's a finger of Hashem. So they have reached to the level of knowing that there is God. Then we have 3 more plagues. Teaches us Hashgocha Protis. After they already knew that God exists, they still needed to be thought that there is Hashgocha Protis, divine providence. That was the next 3 plagues. Then we come to another 3 plagues. We come to another 3 plagues which teach us Lemailo min hateva, that Hashem is beyond nature. Hashem could perform miracles. The Paroi keeps checking, sending messengers, if where the Yidden live, called Goshen, if there's plagues there also. And the answer comes back, there is no plagues. Because the Yidden have the title Ma'aminim, believers, B'nei Ma'aminim, sons of believers. Emunah the Yidden have. So they don't need plagues. The Egyptians, the only way to reach out to them is how? Through the plagues, but the Yidden already knew that. We read Apostle in Chumash, among the plagues, that the Khartoumim, Paris astrologers, couldn't stand in front of Moshe because skin, boils, was all over. The explanation why they couldn't stand is because they were embarrassed. That's how we learn And the Rebbe goes a little bit deeper. There was a plague called kini, lice, was also all over the Egyptians, their body, and wherever they went. We don't make the statement that they couldn't stand in front of Moshe. Sephardeia, the frogs, was also quite embarrassing. In their stomachs, they had frogs. We don't have the statement, but I'm not able to stand. And the Rebbe explains, they were not able to stand because they were not able to grasp what's happening here. We have already gone through how the Egyptians have been able to grasp that there is something called a miracle. What's a miracle? Beyond nature. By Shechin, you saw something that didn't have by any miracles. Slowly. How did the plague of blood come through? Someone, a human being, did an act. He bent the stick, he did something. How did frogs come through? A stick was over the sea. And so on and on. That left room for the heart to think it's kishev, it's magic. We could also do. Hashem sends them plagues totally coming from Shammai. Borot, the hail, the animals were dying, but a human being was not involved there. So they realize that there is a higher power. We call it supernatural. Miracles. By Shechin was both a human being was involved, which means in our language, teva. If you don't know, you could think it's natural, but at the same time, it was a miracle. Moshe Rabbeinu was holding the sud from the furnace in his hand. In one hand, he had how much could go in his hand and in Aaron's hand. A miracle. Moshe, the Medrash says, the most a person could throw an arrow, it could go how much? 50 miles, less than that. And here, Moshe Rabbeinu threw, and it went into the whole Mitzrayim, Egypt. We understand that from hot ashes, boils could come up. But here we're talking, Moshe had them in the hand, they were cold already. Now, it didn't come by itself.
what's the name? מה אתה רוצה מחר? אתה רוצה קטלט מחר?
Somebody
Just
threw.
cutlets?
Okay.
Somebody
In the
threw.
machine, no?
The fact that a human being was involved, and it's obvious many miracles here, is a combination of nature and beyond nature. This is something which lo yochlu, they couldn't understand that. It was beyond their grasping. So they gave up. They became nisbatel, they're lost. Again, first, they saw miracles which a human being is involved. Then they saw miracles which a human being is totally not involved. And now they have seen a combination of both teva, nature, and beyond nature. And this is where we have to emphasize. We get used to, oh, this is natural. Oh, this is logic. The Rebbe Tzemach Tzedek says, teva, nature is also beyond teva. We get used to it. We think it's natural. The plagues are meant to, in addition, as a punishment, to teach godliness. We said before that the Eden do believe in Hashem. So why does the Pasuk say you Eden, should see godliness and tell your children and your grandchildren? Because everything that's happening in the world is for Eden. The first word of the Torah is Bereshis. Bishvil Reishis. The world is created for first. Who is that? The Eden are called Reishis. And the Torah is called Reishis. Everything that's happening in the world cannot be for other nations only. There has to be something. So the Chumash tells you the Eden will also gain levels of godliness. To realize that everything that we call nature is be'emes, beyond nature. And the Novi in the Haftorah will also say, Ra'ois b'nei Beis Yisrael, that the Eden will see. So that will gain all these miracles. What's happening with Mitzrayim, you gain in levels of Emunah. Chas v'sholom. That a Yid should think that Hashem leads the world with Teva. And a lot of Siches, the Rebbe made sure that the Eden Eretz Yisrael and the Eden outside of Eretz Yisrael would remember that we are dependent on who? Not on the non-Jews. The Rebbe would say, not on the votes of United Nations. We are depending on Hashem. And we have to remember that we are depending on Hashem. Our existence daily the Zohar says, Rav Saba would daven to Hashem, he should have food, even when the food was on the table, because it comes from Hashem. We'll interrupt with a Chassidic story. Famous Reb Zusha, the Alter Rebbe's good colleague, close friend, would have a custom. He would finish davening and he would make a statement. Zusha will essen. He wants to eat. And his Shamesh, Gabbai, Shamesh, would bring him in food. Servants, Shamoshim, for a Rebbe, for a Tzaddik, he would always take a simple person. Because if he's a big Chassid, he won't be able to sit down and put food for the Rebbe. He'll start shivering. The food will fall on the floor. Like we all know that when the Rebbe was with Dr. Weiss, should be well, who helped the Rebbe in Tovshin Lamed Ches, the Rebbe had to cure his heart. The Rebbe said to him, deal with me as you are a doctor, not as a chassid. So they would call simple people. So this simple Shamish said, what is he making shtick? Makes himself like a holy man. He talks to Hashem, and Hashem gives him the food. I have got to teach him a lesson. That I am the one who is his provider. I provide the food, I bring it to him. And he should be thankful to me. What is he making shtick as it doesn't even, it's coming from Hashem to him. I've got to make sure he gets it. Tomorrow morning, he won't get the food. Till he will search for me. He'll start searching. I'll come out from my hiding and I'll say, I am the source for your food. No. Good. That day, that the Shamish had a plan that the next day he'll do it. A guest came to Al-Nipoli. Al-Nipoli didn't have such paved streets, sidewalks like University Heights and Beechwood. They had what's called a blotte, mud, not a little bit. You have to go with boots. And the blottes would grow, would be large blottes. So they would have a log put that people could walk on the log. But it's one person at a time. Came a guest, a rich man, wants to go on the blotte. Has to step on the log. He sees a small yid, as they would call him in Yiddish, a yidele, small yid wrapped up, healed up. I'm not going to wait for him. I've got better things to do. He had an elbow, gave him a push, and he went through. He comes to shul for mincha. You heard what happened? You heard what happened? A terrible thing happened. What happened? Each one asked the other one. Our tzaddik, Reb Zushe, was found in the mud, in the blotte. What happened? He didn't feel well. Doesn't seem that. It seems that somebody came and pushed him. What? Reb Zushe, the tzaddik, somebody had a chutzpah to push him off. It's a terrible thing. And this guest, the rich man, faints. Rabbi Yida, they brought cold water. What's bothering you? Our guest comes and faints. He can't relax. You're among Jews, will help you. He says, I am the one who pushed off Reb Zushe. They said, Reb Zushe will forgive you. You go and ask Mechila forgiveness. What should I do? I should knock on Reb Zushe's door. Reb Zushe will open the door. He say, hello, I'm a guest in town. I'll introduce myself. I threw you down from the log. I wouldn't be able to bring out those words from my mouth. They said, we'll give you an idea. Reb Zushe has a custom that when he finishes davening, he says to Hashem, Zushe wants to eat. Be sure that you're there. When you hear him making that statement, making that announcement, walk in with a tray of food. Good idea. The next morning, he's there waiting. Zushe finished davening. He brings in the food. He says, that gives him already an access to talk to Reb Zusha, and he says, please forgive me, won't do it again ever, he promised, he's never going to do this again, finished. The Shamesh is in hiding, he already hears Reb Zusha saying that statement, he is waiting anxiously, Reb Zusha should come looking for him, nothing doing. What happened? Tip-tops, goes, opens the door slowly. He sees a beautiful tray. What does this shamish do every day? Right? A piece of herring, a piece of hard bread, and a little bit tea. What could he bring? And here, a tray with beautiful some. So the shamish faints. So she gets all nervous. First of Eid comes, almost faints. Not shamish faints. What happened? So they says, he explains it. My big mistake. I do see now, I realize that the food comes from Shamayim. I'm just delivering the food. So here we have, back to the Zohar, even if the food is on the table, but you should know the power to you, human being, to eat is min Hashamayim. So the Teva, what's happening every day, is min Hashamayim. We should know that. L'maylo min hateva, beyond nature. Chavdale teves is the day that everything that the tzaddik accumulated during his lifetime goes up to a higher level. And in Igeres HaKodesh, the Alter Rebbe says that it's a day that in heaven the tzaddik brings salvation for all who are connected to him. Begashmis, Beruchnis. And the previous Rebbe explains that on the day of the Yahrtzeit of a tzaddik, he davens for all of us. How much more so when we do something in his honor, we get together, we speak about him, we learn about him, we make a fabringen in his behalf. So that's a spiritual kvittel, zettel, what we call, to the Rebbe. And that gives the Rebbe more merits for us in the day of his Yahrtzeit. Now, we need a story that was asked before, which is connected to the Alter Rebbe's Yahrtzeit, because we're talking what happened when the Alter Rebbe was already not in this world.
Rabbi Chaikin, 1 second, I'm sorry. Did you say to write to the Rebbe or to the Alter Rebbe?
No writing, Ruchnias. We're not writing Begashmi.
Ah, in Ruchniut. You connected to them.
I said that's a spiritual settle.
A spiritual settle, okay.
Our learning is a Ruchnias diket settle.
Ah, okay. Okay, thank you.
The Alter Rebbe, we know, escaped from Napoleon. And the Alter Rebbe said, even though Rosh Hashanah, I already see that he will lose, he won't win, but even for a short while, I don't want to be under his rulership. And when Napoleon was coming close, the Alter Rebbe escaped on the road. The Alter Rebbe became not well, and he stayed in a Goy's house, which the Goy respected him very much, in a village called Piena. The Alter Rebbe left word for his host. He gave him a blessing that his son didn't have to go to the army, also a blessing he should be successful. And the Alter Rebbe said, when one day Yidden will come to you and they will want to eat treife, use your mind, use your sense. You should know how to handle this. And Alter Rebbe passed away. Immediately, the Goy sealed off the Alter Rebbe's room. That became a holy room. None of his family were allowed to enter into this room. Only if a Yid would pass by, he would allow him to daven in the Alter Rebbe's room. A few years have passed, and two business people came to him, and he asked them, the Goy asked them, what would you like to eat? They said, we're not particular. You could fry for us chazer with butter, whatever you please. Good. The meantime, till he prepares the food, he puts them in the Alter Rebbe's room, the room that Alter Rebbe passed away. They didn't notice that he locked the door from outside. They're waiting for the food should come, that nothing comes. A long time. They knock on the door, they're trying to get out, it's locked. Oh, they're getting so anxious. What's happening here? They start to shout. He says to them, this is not a free ride. This is not a hotel. You go, it's one way. And you will have to die here. I'll have to kill you. They heard that. They sat down and they made a calculation called Cheshbon HaNefesh. They were people, learned Torah, have such beautiful families. They left a Jewish wife, a tzaddikus, both of them. And they went in to do business with Goyim. They traveled. Slowly they forgot their source. And Nebuch, they went down so low. And they were really crying and really doing tshuva. When this man saw and heard them doing tshuva from their pnimius, he unlocks the door, and is very friendly to them. And they are getting meshuggah. They expected him to come with an axe and kill them. He says, God forbid. I did not lay a finger on any human being. They lived there for a while. A tzaddik, he passed away. And he told me, when Yidden will want to eat reifa, I should handle it. For all the years, never did I have an experience. A Yid brings his knife with him, brings some vessels, and only eat such food which cannot be treifa. And you were the first ones I felt. You are the ones that the tzaddik told me about you. No, being in that room, this holy room, that aroused them to do tshuva, they accepted upon themselves that they will become Baalei Tshuva, and he let them go. They had a little bit of hard time to find out who was the tzaddik, but that they traced was the Alter Rebbe. but there's distance from Piene, where the Alter Rebbe passed away, till Hadich, but they made it. Before they went home, they went to Hadich, the Alter Rebbe's Tzion, Oil, and over there again they made a cheshbon nefesh. They re-looked into their life and they accepted Mamish to be Baalich Shuvev, proper big Chassidim. From here we see what we say always, that the greatness of tzaddikim after they pass away is greater than their lifetime. So here we have a fundamental story how the Alter Rebbe made Baalich Shuvev after he passed away from this world. So Chavdalet Teves is a tremendous great day for what? For tshuva, for pnimius, for strengthen our attachment to the Rebbe. And now we will hear from Mrs. Alevsky a preparation for Yud Aleph Nisan. Hello?
משפט, Rabbi.
No.
Before Ms. Alevsky will come online, I want a quick question. You said that after the 3 makot, the Mitzrim said, Etzba Elokimi. This is the finger of Hashem. So doesn't mean that they now understand and accept Hashem?
No, they didn't accept Hashem, but they understood that it's Hashem's existence. Till then, Pari said, I don't know of Hashem, and I don't want to know, and I don't need to know. No, this they won't say. They didn't become Hasidim, they didn't become Beinunim, but they knew that Hashem is in charge.
Was it a temporary or was it really understanding? When they said Etzba.
That level of Elohim, which means godliness, clothed in nature, they did understand. Elokus, melubosh, b'derech hateva, they were already able to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So you're calling now Mrs. Alevsky.
Yeah.